My movie recollection with Vincent Cloud,
And me, John Nemitz.
and this is a detailed report or review recap on the 1994 movie of the Hudsucker Proxy.
We like to call these usually anniversary editions, but this time it's a anniversary cursed edition because we were trying for several months last year to get this one out, and just one thing after another kept coming up and postponing it. So
Up to
here we
yesterday.
are on the 10 and 1, or not 10 and 1, but a 10 and 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, Dave is actually the guy who picked this movie out. He never said why, but then eventually he had to drop out like yesterday. And he's like, "Hey, we could record some other week or whatever if you guys want to." And I was just like, "I just want to talk about this already." This has been delayed and delayed several times. John, you have watched this a total of how many times?
I mean, in my life, probably four, and then um, three of those within the last year.
So you fancy yourself an expert on the
No,
flick.
as usual, my movie retention is subpar at best, but I have taken notes.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, I kind of wanted you to like lead this. Like, oh, let's go by
Oh
your
no.
notes.
I mean, I can read my notes, but they're maybe they'll help you actually remember stuff.
Okay. But okay, so let's start off by saying this is a Coen Brothers movie.
Hmm.
I haven't seen all their stuff, but I've seen most of it, I believe, and I enjoy most of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same. Actually, I am a Cohen completionist,
Hmm.
and this movie was co-written by Sam Raimi, and I'm a Raimi completionist as well. So this movie was definitely up my alley for those reasons. Um, and like the whole like the word Hudsucker definitely just seemed to be like an in joke between those guys, like between Raimi and the Coens, because like I feel like in other Raimi early movies they used it like in Crime Wave, I think there was like
Oh.
a Hudsucker Corporation or something like that.
Huh.
I can't remember exactly what. Um and I was um coincidentally watching movies between we when we first started talking about this and now. And the movie, the Sweet Smell of Success, the Tony Curtis picture, not Tony Clifton. We always have that discussion.
Oh, right, yeah. 50s screwball comedy, right?
Yeah, which I recommend, and I have to imagine some of the inspiration for this movie as well. But there's like the main antagonist name is Hunsaker, um, and I wonder if that's kind of what they were riffing on, like. Hunsucker kind of sounds like Hudsucker, but um, it just struck me at the time when they kept talking about Mr. Hunsucker.
Yeah, and then you have Proxy, which is okay, I guess, but just Hudsucker Proxy, just a terrible title, in my opinion. It's not attractive to me.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fair. Like, um, when did you first see this movie? Like for this, or had you seen it before?
I saw it before. I don't remember why anymore. It must have been because Coen Brothers. I'm not sure, but with Coen Brothers, just like with this one, I think especially with their comedies, I don't necessarily get into them right away. Like I didn't like Lebowski at first, and now it's like one of my favorites, you know?
Yeah, I was the same. Like I didn't dislike it, but I was just kind of ambivalent to it. But I had some friends who were just like quoting it all the time and like just kind of through that I'm like just became very familiar with a lot of it, and then like now it's one of my favorites to watch, to rewatch.
Yeah, and so with this one, I think I've watched it 3 times now, and it's still not my favorite of theirs, but I have liked it with every viewing. And especially
Yeah,
with having to take notes, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm starting to get like, some themes here and stuff. That's kind of fun. But the other thing that kind of kept me away from this is the 50s in general. I don't know if I'm a big fan of that whole thing, although I did enjoy that movie, The Apartment, and that's screwball comedy or romantic comedy, very much
yeah,
like this, I feel like.
yeah. I love The Apartment. Um, yeah, there's like a few movies that um this particularly seems to take inspiration from. And I watched a couple of them a couple of months ago, like kind of in preparation for this. So there's like the Frank Capra movies, particularly um, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. It's kind of like this concept in a way where like this country bumpkin kind of, I don't remember exactly now, but he either inherits control of the company or for whatever reason, like he's put in charge of this company, and then just the way he handles himself and works with everyone within the organization. And then like the biggest one I think of is that Rosalind Russell movie, His Girl Friday. Like
Heard of that
Jennifer
name.
Jason Leigh's character is like clearly based on her in that movie. She's like quippy, fast talking, mid-Atlantic accent, um, which I'm a fan of that movie as well. Like I've seen that one a couple times actually.
Oh, Mr. Deeds. I saw the Sandler version. I've
Oh,
seen
I
that a
haven't watched that
lot.
one actually. Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. It's not like it's like amazing at all. It's just Winona Ryder's in it. And so whenever it's on TV, I'm like, yeah, I'll watch this. Fine. Yeah, so I've seen it a lot. All right, but let's get on to this movie. Again, this was released in '94. I didn't do too much research on whether it was like a success or any of that stuff, so I'm not really sure. But it
Yeah,
seems
I don't
odd.
think it was super successful, and like people always talk about it as like underrated or underappreciated. So like even critically and popularity wise, I don't think it did too great.
Yeah. And shit, even the guy who said we should cover this movie isn't here. So, yeah. Okay, let's get
But
it
even
started
he
though.
seemed to have second thoughts about it. Didn't he say something about like he's like, man, I watched the first half hour of it and I'm like, this is awesome. And then like he got sick of it or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, well, let's get into it. We'll try chronologically if we can. Let's start off with the opening, the view of the city in the wintertime. It's New Year's Eve, right?
Yeah, that's right.
1958. And it's minutes to midnight. Not the nuclear expression, but it's damn close to midnight. And we see Norvell Barnes, played by Tim
Tim
Robbins.
Robbins.
He's very good in this. I think he's very funny. He climbs out on the ledge of Hudsucker Industries, and he's coming from the president's office. What's up with this? Well, the narrator is going to be revealed as someone who actually works in the building. I don't know how far we want to stretch into that, but Moses, right?
Yeah.
Is there any allusion to like, did Moses stop a clock once?
Um, yeah, not that I know of. It's a good biblical name. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, I wanted it to, I wanted him to part something. But yeah, okay. So Tim Robbins, he's on the president's ledge, and he's about to jump, and oh no, no, yeah. Then it cuts to the clock, and then it's like we're going back in time, and it's they don't say how much, but Norville shows up, on a
Very
bus.
with his Muncie Business College suitcase.
Oh yeah. And he just arrives in the city and he's checking out the job board, which is a fun little like didn't they have that in airplanes like the
Yeah,
flipping little things? That's
what
kind
are
of
those
cool.
called? Yeah, but sadly, he's not qualified for anything. They all require experience of some sort.
Yeah, that's right. And this guy is a college graduate. So even then it was hard because I'm thinking like, okay, the 50s was were they experiencing some sort of economic uh shit? I don't think so,
I
right?
don't think
Wasn't
so either. Yeah, like you
yeah,
always hear about the post-war boom and all that, and
that's
that
right.
people always say it's the golden era of our country.
Oh gosh, I hate that.
Yeah, same.
All right. Um, okay, so while that's going on though, there's it's got an intercut between this executive meeting, board meeting, and the guy's just saying like, "Oh, these are up and this is up," and meanwhile, Norville is skimming for jobs on the paper. He drinks his coffee, sets it down, not really looking at the rest of the paper, right? And he
Yeah,
tips. But and this was like it was so sad. Like he took back the little penny. Like I think he tipped like 15 cents or something like that, or 11 cents. Takes the penny back.
yeah,
Times were hard. I wonder if this is the Coen brothers saying like, "Hey, it wasn't easy for everybody, pal. There was hard
yeah.
times." Yeah.
It's a good point. But yeah, that coffee cup leaves a little ring on that newspaper. That might come into play later. I don't know.
Yeah, it says Hudsucker opening low pay, long hours, but no experience necessary. And so this is weird. Like there's a bit of magic in this movie that comes and leaves. So the door opens and all the newspapers rush out with that little coffee ring on it, and it looks like the paper's legit trying to catch up to Norville, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's obviously other magical stuff in the movie, so I don't think we we should discount that, you know?
Right. I don't know. That's this there's one thing that I've complained about is like what kind of magic? Like I feel like some rules should be established because when it comes to the ending, the Deus Ex Machina, if I'm pronouncing that right, that's
Deus.
a Deus Ex Machina. I've heard it pronounced both ways. But
Well, you've heard some wrong people then.
screenplay screenplay writers say that's a big no-no. Don't use that Deus Ex Machina. It's lazy writing, and I think it is kind of lazy, but I don't know. Maybe we'll figure it out as we go through, right?
Yeah.
Um, okay, so while he catches that paper, he's like, "Oh shit, I'll go check out Hudsucker Proxy or Hudsucker building." And while that board meeting's happening, the guy at the end of the table, the big boss Hudsucker, looks bored, and he's just staring out the window. And it's just slowly zooming more and more into the window, and he just doesn't care. And then what does he do? He just like takes out his pocket watch, winds it up, sets it down. I think he has a cigar, and sets that down, and he's like, and all the board members are like, yeah. And he gets on the table, and it's crazy. He like loosens up first. He loosens his legs up. You notice that? He kind of kicks them
Yeah,
like,
limbers up. Gets, you got to stretch before you're gonna exert yourself and something like that.
And it's just he's got like a sense of glee, right? Like this is freedom. It's so bizarre. And
Yeah.
I don't know, but the idea of like being so bored and whatever, and then you find yourself looking out the window, like that is exactly what happens to me. And that's when I know I'm checked out of like a job or something, where I'm like just looking out the window and I'm like, I would rather be anywhere but here in this room right now. So
Well,
yeah.
I hope you don't follow his next steps there.
Just post plexiglass, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he takes a running start and he leaps out the window right when Tim Robbins enters the building. And you're like, oh, what does that mean? That's kind of cool. Like, I don't mind how they kind of made intercut all that stuff to happen at a certain time. That was interesting to me.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's falling, and I remember he was like, move out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't want to take anyone else out with him.
Yeah. And yeah, he goes splat. The woman screams.
Mm.
But
Right at the stroke of noon. I don't know if that was significant.
right. Yeah. I think it is. There's a lot of like little touches in this movie that I appreciate. It kind of helps tell push the story a little bit further and stuff. Yeah, I like it. Um, so introducing Sid Musburger. He's staring at the window, the shattered window. Then he walks back, grabs that guy's cigar, and is like, shaved to waste the whole Monte Cristo.
Yeah. And I was also going to say, like, looking around the boardroom, like the cast of characters there, the one guy with like the most impressive eyebrows I've ever seen.
I wasn't
He-
impressed. Like, trim those things.
Oh man. If I
Wait,
had
wait,
those babies, I'd stretch them out even more if I could.
is that your plan? I mean, a lot of dudes, their eyebrows get crazy bushy as they get older. Are
Uh,
you going to just let them grow like that?
I should be so lucky. Yeah, I hope so.
I hate that shit. I've always been bothered by it. I have two very dark, very thick, long eyebrows. Yeah, that I snip or pluck out, actually. I hate them.
Yeah, like I'll be like laying in bed and my wife will just like pluck out an eyebrow to my face if it's
Without
too
even
long.
telling you.
Yeah.
Like, ah.
Uh, uh,
Okay, so
ding.
apparently Hudsucker, the owner, owned 87% of the stock. And he jumped out 44 floors, or 45 if you include the
Counting the
mezzanine.
mezzanine.
Yeah. And it was so weird because, everyone has their back and forth dialogue, but eventually that mezzanine just keeps on getting thrown in there. Very
Yeah.
Lynch-like.
But yeah, like this movie has like a lot of good like I don't know if they're rule of threes, but definitely like repeated things that like they're repeated just the right amount of times to be funny, I think.
Yeah, that whole design is makes me think of director of Shaun of the Dead, that guy.
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright. That's how he writes a lot of his movies. Things line up. He believes in symmetry and stuff like that, timing, rules of threes, like that. So yeah, that's probably a strong influence on him from this. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah,
I just say that's a good point with Edgar Wright. Yeah, like and with him especially, it's like repeating the same thing, but all of a sudden now the context around it is completely different, and it just like is yeah, just such like a witty way to parallel those things.
um, is that a typical Coen Brothers thing? Do they do? I mean, well, they love their language, and like this is all 50s fucking insults and shit like that.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's very much them. But I'm trying to think of like if they write that Edgar Wright way of like where everything's timed and stuff. I don't know about that one. Maybe it's
Yeah, it's
this.
definitely not to that degree, I would say.
Yeah. So anyways, Headsucker apparently had no family or next of kin, so all his stock, that 87%, will go public in a month on January 1st, the strike of midnight. That's exactly where it was going to at the very beginning of the movie, before the flashback. So they're like, okay, so what we should do is we need to hire someone to scare off the investors so that the stock is super low by the time January 1st comes out. So when Hudsucker's stocks show up, they'll just buy it all for super cheap, I think. Or
Yeah,
yeah.
that's basically it. Yep.
Um, do you understand stocks? Do you invest in stocks yourself? Yourself.
You know, I've dabbled with it, but I've learned about myself that I don't like to sell a stock ever. I'm like, oh no, I believe in it. Like, I'll give it more. And like, so therefore, I just like things that were like I could have made money on. I just watch all of a sudden like crash and like, oh, I should have sold those. So
Oh,
what I
really?
do
Wow.
now more is I just kind of um, I remember hearing Warren Buffett said one time, and I don't even know if he actually said this or not, but basically, like, um, he he bet against someone that he would just put his money in like the market tracking stocks, like, have you heard of like the S&P 500 or like the Dow Jones Industrial Average or those things? Basically they just take like, oh, these are like a cross section of leading companies in the United States, and you just have like shares of all of them put like, and they're like kind of a pre-created mixture of stocks or whatever. And if you just invest in that, he bet that he would be better off than somebody just choosing all their own funds and like really picking them and putting a lot of thought into individual companies and everything. And I believe he won his bet against whoever
Oh,
that, that stock picker was. So I'm like, all right, well, if that's good enough for him, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put my money in these index funds and leave it there and call it good. Do I understand stocks? No. I I'm in a like for my job, I often like listen to quarterly earnings calls and stuff for various tech companies. And like in my mind, they did great. Like, oh, we beat our numbers, we had more revenue than we expected. Like to me, it all sounds great. And then like I look at the market, I'm like, oh, their shares just dropped 5%. Like I don't understand what drives things to rise and fall. Like it's truly a mystery to me.
oh man. Yeah, like that whole Wolf of Wall Street. I'm like, I don't care because I don't understand. All right, so since Hudsucker, blah blah blah, what do we say? So they want to get an imbecile, a puppet that they can push around, and so then stock people will leave the stocks or whatever. So that's a moral, right? Or is that an ethics thing? Like they're not supposed to do that?
Yeah, it's definitely unethical, and probably illegal. Like I believe, like a publicly traded company is like beholden to their shareholders that like if if they can be shown that they were not acting in the best interest of their shareholders, they can be sued. And like it happens all the time that like shareholders will sue a company because they acted in not in the best interest of the stock price.
Oh boy, God. I don't know. I want to eventually get into that, but it's so much. But all right, so they're like, okay, we got to find ourselves a Hudsucker proxy. So now we're gonna go down to the mailing room, Norville's orientation, where he's just getting yelled at and like just bombarded with like sensory overload and like work
Yeah.
overload. What's the dude like? You gotta make sure they send the voucher, and if you don't, they
They
dock
dock
you.
ya. Yeah, that's so great.
Here's your employee number. It's something something dash something. It will not be repeated. um, yeah. So all that's happening, and then there's a little scene. I don't even know if it's significant or not, but I guess it might be, where he sees Max Cloppett and Max Cloppett Jr. in a
Oh yeah,
letter.
and yeah, and the junior has the smaller slot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. And like the letter says "do not fold," but it won't fit in the slot because it's smaller than all the other ones. So he just writes on it like, "Please deliver this to your son," and puts it in Max Cloppett Senior. I thought that was pretty funny.
And then that old man, he's like, so I'm not going to be here for too long. He's like, I just started, but this is my ticket out of here. And out of his shoe, he takes out a rumpled little piece of paper, and there's this circle drawn on it. And now that I know what it is, that's funny. It works. but I remember watching this in the movie. I'm like, what is this? Like, I was just really kind of getting turned off by the quirkiness of everything, you know? I just remember that. Like, did you
Yeah.
understand what he meant at all? Like, when did
No, of course not. But
it?
I think they meant it to like at that point just to be absurd that like um and like this happens a few times where he shows the circle and with no explanation and he's just like saying like yeah this is what's gonna do it for me
You know, for
like like
kids.
yeah and he just thinks he's the most brilliant thing he's ever that anyone's ever thought of but it's yeah.
Over the announcements, the guy's like, Mr. Hudsucker decided to merge with the infinite, and I just love that merge with the infinite. It's so good. And then he's like, okay, so please join us in a moment of silence. And then everyone takes their head off and they stay there. And no one speaks. And then he's like, okay, thank you. This is duly noted, and this will be deducted from your pay. So horrible. And then the blue letter alarm goes off,
Blue
and
letter.
everyone's throwing their paper like crazy. And then I got back by that time. Like as soon as I saw their frantic acting, I'm like, oh, okay, so this is just gonna be very quirky. But yeah, that circle thing, I'm like, what the fuck? I remember that. So weird.
And
Uh,
then Tim Robbins kind of like bumbling around, like not knowing how to get out of it
yeah.
or like how to out of
Everyone
sight.
clearly hides, but he's just
Yeah.
standing there and like going in and out.
Yeah.
But the man, he shows up with the blue letter, picks him, and it's explained like this is brass to brass or whatever. This is like hardcore communication, and it's almost always bad news. They hate getting the blue letter and stuff like that. But he is selected at random, and he's told to go and hand deliver it to the dude Musburger or whatever. Oh, these names are not the best. I also don't like the regular names. Musburger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point, I think,
Yeah.
that
Okay, so we meet Buzz. Buzz the elevator operator. He's like, Buzz, I wear the fuzz. I don't know, everything's rhyming and stuff. He's like Mr. Brandt who has an aunt goes to I don't know, he rhymes it with the floor,
yeah,
right?
with every floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have written those down. Those are good. Yeah.
Oh wait, didn't he say like get one wrong? He's like something Kevin on 37 and he's like 36 and he's like you can always take the stairs or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, isn't that crazy that that was a job? Like the elevator was considered something that needed a worker on it at all times?
Yeah. Well, the apartment we were talking about that
Yeah.
that's the whole thing is Shirley MacLaine is the elevator driver.
Oh my gosh. How many trillions of times have guys said going down? That would have been bad. Yeah, and then we're gonna see a lot of just women having to deal with guys' bullshit in this movie as well. A lot of, you know, slaps on the ass and shit like that. Um, let's see, what do we got? Okay, so in introducing another weird character, he's the door designer painter dude.
Oh
He's like,
yeah.
yeah, he's significant, much like Moses. He's gonna have this weird investment in the company that goes it's not like they're getting paid so much, like
Yeah, that's a good point. And like they're they're on opposite sides of this like philosophical war. Well, I mean, jumping ahead obviously, but yeah, that's pretty bizarre.
yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. Even even the office ladies, like the one faints when he reveals the blue letter and stuff like that. That was pretty good. So okay, finally he gets to Sid Musburger's office, which is what's his name?
Paul
Paul
Newman,
Newman. Paul Newman doing a
Newman's Own.
voice. He's very much doing a George C. Scott voice because that's not how he speaks at all. He's got a lot smoother baritone-like voice.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Um, so so he gets there, but before he gives them the blue letter, he once again wants to pitch his idea, that little paper out of his shoe with the circle for kids, you know. And after a while, Paul's like, he's like really studying him. And he's like, wait a minute. So he kind of
Yeah,
puts a cigar in his mouth and he's like, sit down. Like lights up his cigar and stuff. He's like, you were like, let me guess, you did not have much in education. And he's like, oh, I graduated, from Musson or whatever. And it's like, oh, but barely, huh? Like, it's like, no, I made the dean's list. It's like, yeah, but your friends had to have said you were like a bozo or a lame-o. And he's like, no, they said most likely to succeed. So he's like, you're fired. And he just grabs the cigar. And I love how like Tim Robbins holds onto it in his mouth. He doesn't want to let it go. It's the funniest thing. But right away he's like, oh, Paul Newman's like, thought he was an idiot. You are educated, so get the fuck out of here. But that cigar lights up a random contract that he had on the desk. This is fucking madcap. He's on the phone. In the background, Tim Robbins has that big jug of water, the
Oh
cooler.
yeah, yeah. He has to grab that from the way back of the room, and he pulls it off, and he's bringing it towards the fire, and it's just emptying water the entire way there.
It's so good. Yeah, by the time he gets it, he just kind of like sprinkles some water on the fire. He tries to put it out. The bucket on fire gets stuck on his leg. Now, this was such good physical comedy by Tim Robbins. Like, my introduction to Tim Robbins was Nothing to Lose. You ever see that
Oh
one?
yeah, yeah. I love that
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, it was awesome in that one. Um, so Tim Robbins takes the bucket, and it's so much easier to say Tim Robbins than Norville. It's so awkward for me to say that. So I might cut between the two, but he throws the bucket through the window. The wind starts gushing out. All the
And
contract
there's a
papers.
stack of papers, and one by one, they're all flying out the window.
Paul Newman grabs at it and he falls out the window, but is caught, thankfully. And then, okay, so this
Oh,
is
and
another very odd, quirky thing. In the middle of this, is
the
like, oh,
flashback.
yeah, it's like the pants. And he's like, the pants. Flashes
I mean, honestly, like I think this is hilarious, and it's like maybe the thing I think about the most from this movie.
back. Well, what's happening? What happens?
So he's getting like his suit tailored or fitted for a suit or whatever, and the tailor's saying like, "Oh, I make these pants for you. I'll I'll put the double stitch in there." And he's like, "No, I don't need a double stitch. A single stitch is fine." And then they show back him just like hanging there, and then the pants are just like ripping, like you can hear the sound of the fabric tearing away. Then it flashes back to the tailor just working alone. He's like, "Oh, Mr. Musburger is such a nice guy. I give him the double stitch anyway."
He wasn't there. That's what threw me off the most. I'm like, but again, I'm like,
Yeah, that's a good
okay,
point.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, the fact that there's no way he would have known that that happened. Like, who
Okay,
is it
so
flashing back to?
yeah, okay, so now that he's saved, we have this giant montage of like just Tim Robbins laughing while the executives are laughing, but they're laughing for completely different reasons. And you just see him like, going to get his hair done and his suits on and stuff like that. Meanwhile, there's papers about like, what's up with this new kid and then the stocks going down over time. So let's talk about the newspaper company place. Editor in chief Al, played by John Mulaney from
I was gonna
Frasier.
say Fraser's dad.
Yeah, yeah. And oh my gosh, okay, so fast talking stuff. Like I found it really hard to write the dialogue because it's so snappy and just like and you could barely understand what they're saying sometimes, It's crazy. They really
hmm
go for it. But basically, he just wants to find out, like, who is this idea man? Like, you guys haven't printed anything out, so I want to know everything about him and stuff. And that's when Amy Archer, played by Jennifer
Jennifer
Jason
Jason
Lee,
Lee, yes.
uh,
Not
oh,
skateboarding's Jason Lee.
yes, she's great. I really like her in this, and she's fast talking, and she's like, it's suspicious. Um, I would stake my Pulitzer on it.
Yeah, they bet the money on it, and like she gets through almost the entire thing without mentioning her Pulitzer and says that right at the end.
Oh yeah, and then another amazing detail when John Mulaney's like saying like you guys aren't doing your job and stuff like that. You see a hand reaching for the cigar box and he slaps the the door shut, the box shut, and you just like guy just so scared that reporter. I'm like, what is this? This is so funny and odd. Uh uh
John
but
Mahoney, I gotta say, not John
Mahoney?
Mulaney. Yeah,
Mahoney,
John
okay.
Mulaney is the contemporary comedian.
Olivia Munn, right?
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah. But yeah, she's like, this is he's a fake, and but like, look at the picture. He looks dumb. He looks like a face only a mother could love on payday. It's like- and she was able to snatch one of those cigars, and she just kind of tosses it to one of the reporters and stuff. And she's like, people are gonna wonder why you didn't get on top of this. Like, why did they make a monkey out of you, Al? And she goes up to John Mahaney and goes, ooh, ooh, like that. And does something with his hair, and she finds something. She kind of like flicks it off her hand. And I gotta say, Jennifer Jason Lee, I've only seen her in like maybe three things now. I saw her in Hateful Eight, and she got nominated for it. She was really good. And then I saw her in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh yeah.
She nearly outcuted Phoebe Cates. I was like, oh my gosh, like, she's so cute. Yeah, it's crazy. And she's so very good in this. I think she's hilarious. She sounds very much like Katharine Hepburn, I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely that kind of vibe.
Would you say Atlantic or Atlantic
Mid-Atlantic.
accent? Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah,
did
which
that
is
take
basically
over?
I don't know, it was like and like nobody in real life anywhere spoke that way. It was like a made up accent for movies meant to sound like halfway in between like an American and a British accent. So that's why they called it mid-Atlantic. Like it's like if you're in the middle of the Atlantic, you'd be
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh, okay. That's so odd. Wow.
I know.
But
But that's
then,
like how everyone talked in those movies. It yeah, it's so bizarre.
except Brando, he's the one that broke that shit down. He's like, I'm gonna mumble. No one's gonna. Yeah. All right. So, Norville does ask Paul Newman. He's like, "Hey, how about what's going on with the lowering stock? Should we be concerned?" And Paul Newman's like, "No, it's fine. It's just like a transitional thing. The more scaredy investors are just going to leave, but that's fine, something like that." Um, so
Remember
this is
that line.
this is an awesome scene coming up, the diner,
Oh
where
yeah.
these two workers observe uh what's her name?
Amy.
Yeah, Amy just getting her hooks in, doing all the little schemes and stuff.
Yeah, given the
While
play
they're
by play.
yes, oh my gosh, it's so good. At first, it's like she orders the light lunch, and then she dumps all her purse stuff out, and she's like, "Oh, what? How am I gonna pay?" and stuff like that. And then he's like, and I think the Mark is wise, because he's like eating something, he's not paying attention. And he's like, "You don't
He
look that
doesn't look
wise."
wise.
Is Tim Robbins an imbecile? Because I go back and forth. He's either naive, but like there's almost like I don't know. I don't get it. He did graduate, or is he just
Yeah,
smart 4 months in, or whatever it is?
Muncie. That's
Muncie?
a good question. He's definitely naive and he's definitely manipulatable. Is that a word? But
Yeah, yeah.
like he just yeah, he just kind of seems to take stuff at face value. That like if people are saying something is the way it is, he just kind of like, okay, well, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, well, yeah. New York, you definitely come off pretty goddamn dumb. But okay, what does she do? So he's still not paying attention to her. So she grabs some water real quick, puts it on her eyes and under her nose, and it does the crying thing. But then she elbows him like to finally look at her and stuff. Oh my gosh. Uh, and then they're like, oh, they're voicing her dialogue. And they're like, her mother needs an operation. And they're like, what would it be? They name some disease, but they're like, no, not that one. Lumbago. I've never heard of that disease. What is that? Have you heard of that?
I've only heard of it in like old movies and stuff. I have no idea what it actually is.
And then eventually she just faints in her arms, and the two of them are like, wow, like, she did it and stuff like that. And then it ends where the waitress is like, do you guys need something? And they're like, bromo. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I have no idea either.
They just like the Coen brothers. It's like True Grit, where they would say all these old Western things, and you're like, I don't even know if we're meant to get that. It's just people talking in their language and stuff.
Hmm.
I like that. I like that they're not going to hold your hand when it comes to language and stuff. That's pretty cool. Let's see here. So Norville carries Amy in, walking past the bald door painter guy. And I remember him giving sort of like this glare, and I was like, whoa, is he just suspicious of her already off the bat? You know?
Hmm.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
interesting. So there's this whole scene where she's talking. I don't even know what she's saying. Like I have no idea. I think she's just blabbering.
yeah. Like
Yeah,
like while he's carrying her, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
He drops her down after carrying him, and then there's this little scene where it's from his point of view at her while she's talking, and like the scene is like warping, like he's getting dizzy or something.
Hmm.
And it doesn't pay off. It's just to show at that moment he was dizzy. What a weird decision, but I like it. And then he takes a drink of liquor and he's like, he spits it out. Like that, I didn't understand. So he hasn't drank until then, or what? What was that?
Yeah, or he just thought it was going to be water or something. I don't know.
Uh, Well, while he's in the bathroom, that's when she goes through his desk. And I love this shot. Oh my God. She opens the drawer and it's just a little pencil that rolls out. I don't know why I thought that was so funny, but I did. Like a great way of showing that he's got nothing inside either, almost.
Yeah,
His
and
schedule, there's
empty
a
schedule. There was like one item in it. What was it like a um
junior achievers.
yeah, exactly. Talk to some student class about something or whatever. And I don't remember, was it at that point it was crossed out or
No,
or
later
later on?
on, after he
Later on.
gets famous, then he crosses it out,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
showing his decline. Um, okay, so this is a question though. How did she get what is it, Munson or whatever?
Muncie,
Muncie.
Muncie,
How did
Indiana.
all these words and names I just hate. They're not easy to hold on to. So how did she come up with that? Because she was saying to herself, she's like down to earth, only whatever, and then she's like Muncie. I'm from Muncie because
I think she did research beforehand to know that's
oh
where he
really?
was from.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, because she kept on saying like, and it's a small town you've never heard of, and she kept on saying it, waiting for him to reply. So I thought maybe she didn't know
Mm.
and waiting for him to say, but yeah. What else here?
So then, yeah,
So
then he, so it works regardless of, yeah, I don't remember exactly if it's what you're saying or if she researched it, but at any point he gets super excited that she's a Muncie girl and they perform the Muncie fight song together.
he must have been the mascot because he does like the eagle dance or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then I love how
Go Eagle.
yeah, the little hand thing.
Yeah.
But I love how she's trying to follow and like just immediately, say whatever it is she just said. But then there's a raise in the song, like you would think that the word is done, but then it pitches back up or something. Oh man. And so, anyways, he's like, you know what? I want to give you a job. In fact, there's an opening downstairs where I used to work. And he calls, and it's this old boss is like, where the fuck's the voucher? Or where the hell's the voucher and stuff? And he's like, I'm president of the company now. And he's like, I don't
I
care.
don't care if you're the president of the company.
Oh my gosh. I don't know why, but that really struck with me of having that terrible boss and like, oh, I don't have to deal with you anymore. But you're still I know if I were to see you again, you it would be a terrible experience. So that was kind of funny. Um so she decides to or he decides to just give her a job as the secretary. That's cool. At the newspaper office, that's where Amy tells Smitty, that's Bruce Campbell,
Heck yeah.
talking about the imbecile head Hudsucker, and yeah, all while helping complete a crossword puzzle. Remember that? Like, what's
Oh
a
yeah, the the guy like creating the crossword puzzle, like yeah, that was an ongoing bit. Like, what's a six-letter word for whatever?
and so she's typing up a letter while explaining to Bruce Campbell what she's uncovered, while helping him with that puzzle and stuff, and then on the phone talking to someone else about some other deadline. Like, what a great performance by her. Like, she just kept all those balls in the air. You know what I mean? It was great.
Yeah.
Um, bu- 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 Okay, so executive office again with Norval. He calls in Amy and he's like, "Hey, why would they type this and stuff? Am I an imbecile?" And she's like, "No, I don't think so." And he's like, "Would an imbecile invent this?" And shows up the circle again. And I love how he always ends it with like, for kids. They're like, "Yeah, right." Oh my gosh. I just another identifying thing for me is, you know, it's his invention, and I'm currently inventing a bit of a game myself. But you always feel like a fool sometimes when you look at it and you're like, "What is this?" And that's how you feel, like you're just showing someone a circle, like, "Huh, get it?" And they're like, "No," it could be a disaster. So I identify with that. But he's saying like how so this woman like how why would she write this? Why couldn't she come to man or no, scratch that face to face like he's dictating to her, right?
Yeah, he's like writing a letter to the editor, basically.
Yeah. It's like change man to face to face. Actually change face to eye to eye. It's just all this rapid, funny dialogue. I couldn't write all of it. I'm just trying to draw from memory and stuff. Oh man. But after all that, or what does he say? Yeah, he says all that stuff. Like, how could you do that? You couldn't even write for this fantasy magazine that I know of, or something like that. And you know, and then after all that, he's like, "Oh, don't send the letter. I just want to blow off steam." And so she's really just like, "Oh, okay. Well, that's good." She's kind of seeing the better, sweeter side of him. But then he's like, because she's probably just confused, this writer. She's like, what does that mean?" He's like, "Oh, she's trying to be one of the men. She probably hangs out with a nitwit called Schmo or something." And she's like, "Smitty."
Or Schmitty.
Yeah. And she's probably an old hag, ugly, and she's like, I would imagine she puts her career over her feelings of, her appearance. And he's like, yeah, that's what she tells herself. And again, like this, he was so sweet a moment ago, and now he's just he there is like this tone deafness with him. He doesn't really read the room. Like he actually cuts her off a few times in this movie. You know,
Yeah, that's true.
it might be just how men thought and acted around women. I mean, I'm positive that's how it was. You see that shit now sometimes. Um, oh yeah. So, anyways, after all that, he's like, "How about we go out and see a show? How about The King and I?" She slaps him in the face. Is like, "Or Oklahoma." All right. So after hours, this is where Amy explores the office after the lights are turned off, and she finds a door, a hidden door, I guess. Goes out to the big clock grinding thing. On the other end, she sees that she's able to peek into Paul Newman's office. And that's when Moses, he's like,
And
"Hey,
who catches her snooping around but old
yeah,
Moses?
old Moses." She's like, "How do you know my name?" He's like, "I reckon I know everything that needs to be learned about this building or something like that." And I was thinking, like, is this kind of feeding into that weird stereotype, like the wise black man
Yeah,
stereotype, you
definitely.
know?
Like the yeah, that thought definitely crossed my mind. Um what like the legend of Beggar Vance
Yeah,
and
that's right.
that type of thing.
I mean, but it explains exactly why he knows everything because he eavesdrops on everybody. That whole that he uses that for Paul Newman. He quotes her back at her from the scene before because he's listening in on everybody, you know?
Hmm. But
So
he
he,
literally does have magical powers as
all right,
well,
all
as
right.
we
Oh,
later
wait,
learn.
hold on though. Is he magic or is the clock magic?
Ooh, that's a good
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Because it explains why he knows what he does, and that's fine. Um, but
Actually, there's like a weird magical time thing kind of all around too, because like didn't like earlier on like Paul Newman say like wait a minute and his
right,
like this little Newton's cradle toy just stops in its tracks.
that's what that's called, Newton's cradle.
I think so.
That is pretty cool. Oh, that's cool. I've always known about those things. I just never knew what it was called. Okay, so he straight up just tells her, "Oh, the board members chose Andy, not Andy, Andy
Andy
Dufresne,
Dufresne.
yeah, um, chose Tim Robbins because he is an imbecile, or no, because they think he's an imbecile."
Yeah, that's it.
And she's like, and then he's like, "Yeah, you think he's an imbecile too, but I think you know him as good as they do because he's got some ideas up his sleeve." So yeah, he knows about the hula hoop already.
Yeah, and he even says, for kids.
All right,
Like
yeah.
like just to make it extremely clear.
Uh, what am I saying here? Okay. So finally, he's like, I don't know why you're pretending. And she's like, "Oh, well, in my line of work, you have to sometimes go undercover." And he's like, "That's not what I mean. Why are you pretending to be like this shrewd woman? Do you think that's gonna make you happy?" And she's like, I'm happy enough." And he just laughs at her face and just he's like, "Okay." He just takes off. And that was so bizarre. Like, I don't know. I liked it though. But the feeling of like Bagger Vance-ish sort of like omnipotence, I guess, kind of like I
Yeah.
was like, ugh. So let's get back to the newspaper office. Editor says he can't print what she just found out. He's like, that's all hearsay. Like, you have no proof that they've elected him just to get the stocks down and all that stuff. Um, And oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite parts where they're kind of yelling at each other. Bruce Campbell's in there, but she's like, here's a story for you. You're a dim-witted editor or something like that." She goes up to him and she like balls up her fist when she does it. It- uh, she's so she's such a tiny lady, and I just love how like her little fist she balled up in front of her boss. I thought that was adorable. She was so good in this movie. And then finally, when she's leaving, she's like, "Do these clothes make me look mannish?" Oh yeah, that's what Tim Robbins said. Like she probably dresses mannish to fit in or whatever. So when she asked that, she's like, "Does this make me look mannish?" And Bruce Campbell slaps her ass like not at all or something like that. And then she slaps him and takes off. Both men are completely shocked that she did that. Like they don't even get it. They're like, "What was that about?"
Yeah,
That's
completely
just
surprised.
again a peek into that Mad Men like mentality.
Yeah.
Um, okay, let's talk about the gala event where
Yeah,
these two
fancy dress
women,
ball.
yeah, two women are sitting on either side of fucking Tim Robbins, and they got that voice. Oh, like they're like upper crust, like whatever. And I don't even know what they're talking about, but the one woman, she mentions like this water cooler romance that took over or something like that. That is an allusion to the ending where like Hudsucker's like, yeah, a woman chose Musburger over Hudsucker. These names suck so bad. Oh my God. But yeah, that's so when he commits suicide, part of it is because that crazy lady chose Paul Newman over him. That's in retrospect, I'm like, her? Holy shit.
Yeah, I
Um,
guess I never even put that together. That's funny.
okay, so Sid Musburger takes Tim Robbins and says, "Oh, let me introduce you to some of the stockholders. So some of these people, you really have to be careful what you say." And he's like, "Wait a second, scratch that. Say whatever you want." And there's this one Texas guy is like, "Are you an imbecile or not?" or something like that. He's like, "No, if people drop stock, it's because they're a bit scared or something like that." And that's when the Texan is like, "Yella," gets really offended.
Well, is that when he like just like parrots that line about some of our more timid shareholders or whatever?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Again with the repeating of lines, that's really cool. And now
Yeah.
it means different.
Yeah, and that one I definitely took as him not having like an original thought in his head and just repeating what Musburger said to him earlier.
Yeah, that again enforces the idea that is like how much is in there, you know?
Hmm.
It's so bizarre. Okay, so then they go to like a Finnish, a fit. What are they called? Someone from Finland, anyways, right?
Yeah.
But
And
he's like, oh,
luckily he had
yeah.
studied Finnish in high school.
What do they do? What are their reactions, John?
Not good.
I think she screams and then he throws his drink in his face, then punches him. And like I watched this with subtitles, and they never say what he said. It just says finish. I'm like, oh shit.
That's funny.
A crooner shows up to sing a song for played by the dad from the OC,
Oh, I have no idea.
Peter something. No. Gabriel Peter. No, fuck.
Peter Gabriel.
Gabriel. Amy finds Norville on the balcony with an ice bag in his face, and she tries to admit to him what she is or whatever. But again, he's talking over her. He's assuming what she said means something else. She's like, "I'm not much. I'm not really a secretary." It's like, "Oh, I know, because you just started. You're not much of a secretary or something like that, right?"
Yeah, you'll learn.
Uh, yeah. She's like, I think she starts talking about herself a little bit about like the bar, a beatnik bar, which stands for hippies, basically, right? Those were before they were called
Yeah,
hippies.
yeah, like earlier proto hippies.
Proto. That was pretty cool. Yeah, like we were hippies before, like um okay, but upon that, that's when Tim Robbins is like, "Oh, beatniks, they talk about what the Hindus talk about, I think. Reincarnation. I think they talk about that."
Yeah.
And the lines about like how, perhaps we met before, you were a gazelle and I was an
Oh, that's right.
antelope
Yeah.
or an ibex. What's an ibex?
It's just another like deer-like, antelope-like thing.
gosh, never heard of that fucking word. That's crazy. And then she uh codedly says, I wish I could be a gazelle again. She's kind of looking at how she's lied to him and how she behaves in the city now. Although, are we ever told where she's from? She's not from Muncie, a small town, but maybe, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I guess I don't know either.
Um, but yeah, he's like, yeah, I wish we could be that again, where I could still call you dear or something. It ends with a very corny joke, but it was pretty funny. And then he asks for a kiss for good luck, and what do you know it? They like kissing each other, and there's big swell of music, romantic music, the big city behind them and stuff. But spoilers, they don't date. That's that's not what happens. They just kiss on this balcony, and soon he's dating Zaza, and like she later says, like, I've never been dumped by a man before. So yeah, they
Yeah,
don't they might have just kissed and that's it. That's crazy.
yeah,
Um yeah.
it's true.
Okay, the board meeting. So this is where it kicks into like a different gear, and now he's finally displaying his hula hoop on
Yeah.
himself. He doesn't know the name yet, and all the executives have a lot of questions, like, well, what if you get tired of it or something? What if you, what if it breaks? It better break and stuff like that. It's all this odd questions, but actually, Paul Newman believes in it. He's like, you got something there. So that was pretty cool. But I honestly, like, when this happened, I'm like, who invented the hula hoop? Is this based on his life? And I'm like, did Hudsucker eventually become Hasbro? Like, what is happening here? Um, do you know
What do
anything?
we, no, I don't know anything about the actual
Okay.
version of it.
I've watched Toys That Built America, and basically, I'll just like say it really quick. Hasbro, they didn't invent anything; they just bought the rights to stuff. So they came across someone who was doing this hula hoop thing, and they're like, "What do you call it?" They're like, "I don't know," and they're like, "We'll buy it from you." And then years later, when they're losing money and hula hoop isn't the big sensation, they're like, "We need something else," and they're at this beach. And a frisbee lands next to them, and they're like, "What is this? We'll buy it." So I find it interesting that Hudsucker covered both those products. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably not a coincidence. But like, what would be a
Uh,
good name for such a thing? Would you call it a hoop sucker or a hud swinger?
that's finger. Yeah. So there's this big montage where they,
The production line,
yeah,
how they're just creating clearly like thousands and thousands of these things. And like, um, yeah, they're just leading the viewer to believe that these things are just like immediately going gangbusters right out of the gate and that everyone loves them. But turns out not to be the case. They show the storefronts just slashing their prices, like 50% off, 30% or whatever, well, higher numbers later.
yeah. Oh, I have to throw out the one name that I liked when they were like brainstorming ideas, Uncle Midriff. Like, what the fuck is that? And I love their testing. They even blow it up just to see. It's crazy. Um, So yeah, the guy, the toy store owner, is like, oh well, these aren't selling. He just tosses a bunch out onto the street, and we follow one soul
One
hoop,
fateful hoop.
and it lands next to a kid. And he's like, huh, I just instinctively know what to do with this. But that is a nice scene where like the kids show up and they're like, what is he doing? And he's come up with all the neck. He does the neck thing. He does the ankle skip rope thing. Oh, it's great.
Were you uh were you a good hula hooper?
Good.
Are you still?
I haven't hooped in a long time. I liked it. Yeah, I came up with some tricks too where you kind of throw it, but like with a like so it lands and it rolls back to you, that sort of
Oh
thing.
yeah, I know what you're talking. Like
Yeah,
you put the spin on it.
yeah, yeah.
I was like so uncoordinated as a child. Like I couldn't like jump rope without hitting myself in the feet. I couldn't like hula hoop and make it stay up. I was just not good at kid stuff.
Adult stuff though, that's where
Oh
you
yeah,
excel.
yes, I've nailed. I told you about my stock portfolio, right?
Yeah, you're like taxi. Very good at that. So it starts to, yeah, people start to notice it and it starts to sell now. Uh, so some
The
more,
prices go up in a similar fashion to what they were slashed earlier.
yeah, President Eisenhower calls
Are
Tim
you talking
Robbins.
about on Tidbits of Time?
Is that what it was? Tidbits of time. That's awesome. I love that title. Um, so even the a scientist explains it. He's like it's there to prevent you from soaring into the darkness of space or something like that. It's this weird thing, and he's like, and then we add a bit of we say dirt or
Sand, maybe. I don't remember.
so like
Grit.
grits, yes, inside the hoop for something I don't remember, but like he's just coldly stating why this is a fun device. It was awesome. And okay, and then they're asking him questions,
Oh,
and
I actually wrote that down. Prevents you from flying off into the cold reaches of space where you would die like a miserable schwein.
oh my gosh, that's awesome. There's this it's an impromptu conference. I don't know. There's like a bunch of people asking him questions, and Tim Robbins is like, "I never knew there would be so much hoopla," and everyone
Oh my
like
God, the look on his
laughs.
face.
Yeah, but he's like scared. He's like, and then they're like, but when are you gonna get a raise? They keep bringing that up, and I found that was weird. Like, he's the president. Why would he get a raise for that? I don't know. That threw me
I,
off.
I mean, CEOs get raises and bonuses all the time, you know.
Oh, oh, okay. They're like, oh, what about the rumors that you and Zaza are dating? And like, there's Anna Nicole Smith, like right there. And yeah, what's her name? Amy is reading newspapers about this. There's a long extended time where you just see her by herself. She's not at the office. She's like on the train reading a newspaper and stuff. She has to react to all the stuff that Tim Robbins is doing. It's crazy. Um, okay, so at the executive office, at the big table, this chairman's pouting. He's like, "You never said that you sold her stock." And Sid Musburger's like, "I had to," or something like that. Why did he do that? What I don't understand his explanation.
I think he thought they could sell the stock at the previously high price and then rebuy it back when the price plummeted. So to even like
Oh,
make more money out of the scam in addition to taking over ownership of the company.
that sucks. They weren't told.
Unfortunately, the stock is now at an all-time high.
Yeah. And Mr. Eyebrows is like, I could have been a millionaire. Like, so he gets on the table and he's heading for the window. Oh my gosh. But it's
Plexiglass.
plexiglass. Yeah. Okay, so back at Tim Robbins' office, Amy shows up. There's like musicians there and
Like an
like
orchestra, a
masseuse.
sculpture is being
Yeah, like
chiseled.
out of marble or something. It's and then there's one dude just reading the funny papers. Like, what is he doing? But Amy shows up. She's like, "All right, get scram and everything." She kicks everyone out, and she's like, "Andy, do you know that the boardroom or they're gonna fire like 160 workers?" And Andy's like, "Of course, like, of course I know that," or something like that. I don't understand the explanation though.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
But what she's getting at is like, you've changed. You used to be a sweet man. Now you're just about money and like trying to please the board members and stuff. And that's when she says, I've never been dumped by a fella before and it hurts, but what hurts worse is seeing you change. So yeah, she's definitely feeling more for him. And she said, she's like, you've been avoiding me for a week. And well, now I'm back here. So I think that montage was that week where, yeah, they weren't dating. Like after that kiss, that was nothing because he shows the hula hoop. He's like, I got to show that presentation the next morning. So yeah, they just made out a little bit and that's it. It's crazy. Okay, so she's like, all right, I don't, I resign. And she kicks the guy in the ankle and she takes off, right? Explain this dream sequence. What is this?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. But yeah, the Coen brothers love like the random dream sequence in the middle of a movie. Like they do it in Lebowski and um
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like a weird like abstract representation of the themes of the movie. I don't yeah, I don't know that I could explain it completely.
I appreciate Tim Robbins dancing though, or whatever you want to call that. First of all, he runs and he does like that ballerina like leap. He gets some air. And like for being as as he is, I think Tim Robbins, the actor, is very nimble and agile. Like he does some great physical stuff in this movie. Um, when they're supposed to be twirling away from each other, he's just kind of like it does not look nice. But when she parts her hands, her arms. He does it too, but he does the Karate Kid stance. So awesome. And he wakes up to Buzz, uh, the elevator guy. And so I am so confused with this. Maybe it's because Andy's just mad that he does this, but
Andy.
yeah, I know. God damn it. Fuck. Um, so Buzz is like, I have an idea. And he has the straw, and then it curves, it crunches. What is it called? Bendable. It's
Yeah,
the bendable
bendy
straw he
straw.
invented. Yeah, he invented
For
this.
drinks.
uh, but okay, it's a good invention, and Norville sees it, but then he's like, "This is stupid. Like, why would you bring this up to me? In fact, I'm gonna fire you." So he
Yeah,
says
he's
that the
like such like the he's just become corrupted and like all this power has gone to his head and um he forgot his own where he came from and
I thought I wasn't
which is maybe
sure.
what the dream sequence is meant to represent.
Okay. Very Lynch-like.
I can't help but just call this Lynchian.
So I wasn't sure if he was going to steal the idea or he truly thought it was a bad idea or he thought it was a good idea, but he was mad that it wasn't his. He just wanted to discourage him. I am not sure.
Yeah, it literally just seemed like he just wanted to like spout off because of his power, basically.
But what's confusing though is later on, they make up a lie that he stole the hula hoop from Buzz.
Right.
And that it's made even stranger when Buzz is like, "So they tell me that you stole the hula hoop idea for me." Oh my God, I was so confused about all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, were those movies that they like so much, were they confusing? Did they have some odd things? Or is that just them?
No, I think that's just them.
Okay. Jeez. Okay, so the office, Paul Newman's office, this is the ball door designer dude. He hands him a file and it basically showing Amy's true identity.
Outing
Um,
her as a spy.
yeah, yeah. So Sid, oh my God, I go from Sid to Paul Newman. Oh, this is terrible. But he calls in. he calls in Tim Robbins and he's like, "Hey, turns out she's a writer or whatever, right? And you stole Buzz's idea for the hula hoop." And he's like, "Oh, well, you're fired because, it's embarrassing that you hired her and she's a reporter and, stuff like that." So he's just saying like you're done. And I think he says like when you're dead, you're dead. You stay dead. Just ask Hudsucker. I'm like, what
Wearing
an odd thing to
Hudsucker.
say. Yeah. Newspaper office. They want to print the story of Norville stealing ideas, but Amy resigns in protest. She's like, it's not true. Don't type this up. You're just being used by the company. But they don't listen. So she resigns a second time in the movie. It's very bizarre that I noticed this also when she slapped Norville. The next scene, she slaps Bruce Campbell. Slap,
Yeah,
slap,
so
resign,
it's like
resign.
repeating what happens at the Hudsucker office at the newspaper.
Yeah, truly weird though. Okay, so this is the boardroom. There's this doctor scientist dude. He basically says Norville is a manic depressive, paranoia with a schizophrenic, and that he should be treated with like this absurd electricity therapy or whatever you want to call it, strapped up with the straitjacket and then put into a home, you know? Yeah. It's harsh. They're just I mean,
Yeah,
I guess they
dark.
recorded his session with his doctor. Is that where they got that footage? It's like right above his head.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know what's crazy though? They diagnosed him with uh someone I know. He actually has all those. So that's all I gotta say about that. But actually, no, I've wanted to tell him because I might cut all this, but he was like, "Oh, I don't need to take meds for this or whatever. I could just deal with it." And I don't know what it was, but I was like, you know what? Back in the day, they would not have treated you this way at all. Like the mental health stuff was barbaric for the
Oh yeah.
longest time, and only until recently that it's kind of gotten out of those dark ages. Ugh. Um, so yeah. So let's go to the Beatnik bar where I'm sure they're drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon, to quote a Lynch movie.
Man, somebody's got Lynch on the brain.
I do, absolutely. Um, so Norval's drunk, and oh my God, we got the Boosh, Steve Buscemi.
Right, but he didn't get drunk there because that's a
All
juice and
right.
coffee bar.
Oh my God, and he's so drunk where they keep repeating, he keeps asking for it. Oh my God, that's so bad. Oh my gosh. This Steve
I like a
Buscemi's first
martini.
Cohen's?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I never remember what order they're in. Um, but
Oh,
it's
Martini's like that's for squares, man, right?
yeah.
Something like that. Amy arrives. She's like, "Hey, you have to, don't give up. You have to,
Yeah, she's trying to rally him back into action.
total rally." In fact, she's like, "Go Eagles" and stuff like that. She recites the cheer like
Yeah.
almost verbatim and stuff. She was paying attention. Uh,
Unlike him most of the time when she was talking.
yeah, yeah. See, I should say this now because I might forget. Did he change? Like all he did was survive and be given a second chance, but we don't see him change with her. I mean, they kiss, but did he even change with the build? I don't know. That's a weird one. I don't think
Yeah,
they
I mean
addressed it,
that's hard to say. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, we talked about this a couple of times, but like, yeah, what's going on in that head of his? Like, does he just like um he's just influenced by like the last person he talked to kind of thing?
which is bad. It's like that. I mean, they're right about him. He's malleable, like he's
Yeah.
impressionable and stuff. It's not good. So she's like, "Oh, you have to forgive me and you have to forgive yourself." I really love that line. Um, she's so good in this movie. When she's doing the whole like, "Hey, the Muncie cheer," Tim Robbins is just like, you're from Muncie. How could you have lied to me? Like, he's saying like we're just not like that over there. And
Hmm.
she can't even say like, "Oh, I lied about that too." you know. So Norville walks around the city while like this weird kind of the Lost Weekend sort of imagery goes by him while he's walking the streets. You ever see that movie?
No, I haven't.
It's an alcoholic and he's walking down the streets and all he sees is like bar and drinks and
Oh, is
stuff
that
like
what that's
that.
from? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
been parodied in so many things,
Yeah. Futurama,
including
I think.
Futurama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like library and stuff like that.
Yeah, church Bible class or something like that.
Okay, so back at the office, Musburger says Norville is out there crazy and the mental workers are out there looking for him. Um, After the doctor's through with him, he'll need a diaper and a dribble cup. That's maybe that should be
It's dark.
a future hate, just the old mental
Oh my gosh.
therapies and stuff. Ugh.
Yeah.
So
But
Norville runs. Oh yeah, go
oh
ahead.
yeah, I think that you were about to say. He runs into Buzz with his old girl.
His new girl. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
Right.
with
Right.
yeah,
Right.
with Norval's old girl. Yeah.
Buzz and Zaza. But Zaza would be their their celebrity couple name, right?
I
So
guess
yeah,
so.
they're outside in the snow, and that's when Buzz is like, "Hey, hey, buddy!" Like at first he doesn't mind seeing him, and then he's just like smiling. It's like, "So the boss told me you stole my idea for the hula hoop. What's up with that, buddy?" Something like that. But it's actually Anna Nicole Smith who says like, "What are you waiting for? Punch him one." So he does, and then Tim Robbins is on the ground in the snow, and all the these people are gathering around him, like, "Oh my God, isn't that the imbecile or the thief and stuff like that?" And then they start to chase him. I don't understand that at all. I was very confused. Like, why would they care? And aren't they all like rich and like fur coats and pearls? And all of a sudden
Yeah.
they're like, "Get him!" Oh man. Even the truck shows up. They have their comedic giant
The
nets.
butterfly net kind of thing.
I wonder if that was real because that's been used a lot, you know? Oh, that's ugh.
Well, I mean, like, so typically what you would assume as like the dog catcher nets, right? So yeah, I wonder if that was like maybe it was a real thing for dog catchers, but then they just comedically use it for people too. But yeah, who knows?
I hope that's what it is. And not really like they treated human beings like that. Ugh. So Norville running away. He arrives at Hudsucker. He goes to the lobby. There's a statue of him. Uh, Meanwhile, Musburger's at his office. He's writing down. He's like, "I'm the president, and it'll now be called Sid Sucker or something like that."
Yeah, Must Sucker,
Mussucker.
Sid Sucker, like
I didn't see the Must Sucker. That's awesome.
that.
Okay, so Norville shows up. He's distraught. He goes into his old office. He opens up his closet where his old overalls were. He puts those on and he walks out to the ledge. And then the lights turn off in his office. He's trying to he tries to scoot back to the window. And a fucking hand shows up, closes the door on him. And it's the bald door dude, the door painter.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't even think Sid Musburger even knows about him doing this. I don't think he was told to do it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like he's just got whatever his own agenda is, inexplicably.
Yeah, this is like Twin Peaks. Like, what's up with this character? Officially made any mystery, any quirkiness to be Lynchian. uh, okay, so Tim he slips. He's hanging on. The guy sees him, doesn't bother to help, and he falls. He's falling. And then this was the moment I remember the first time watching this where I'm like, what is this? He's about to hit the ground. He freezes. And then we cut to Moses, and he's got a broom in the wheel, and he looks at the
Yeah, like in the
camera.
gears of the clock.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
looks at the camera. And he's like, "Normally, I shouldn't be doing this," or something like that. I'm like, "What? What? Like this really kind of tore me out of the movie. I had so many questions. I didn't get it."
Well, I mean, as breaking the fourth wall is intended to do, I believe.
So Tim Robbins is hanging there. All the snow's frozen as well in place, I believe. Or no, it isn't. Yeah, I don't think it is. Because that would be a hard digital effect for that day. But Mr. Hudsucker shows up as an angel. He's singing a song and stuff. Oh my gosh. And he's like, hey, did you ever why didn't you give
You ever deliver that blue letter?
and when I heard that, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about it personally. Did you?
Yes. Well, first time I watched it for sure. Yeah.
He's like, it's still in your overalls, you imbecile. And there's a lot of like back and forth of like, you know, uh, getting things wrong. Like you should be able to fall. It's like fail, you know, stuff like
Oh yeah, and
that.
then they do it. That happens like two or three times, and then the word is supposed to be fail, and he says fall.
Yeah. He's like, so yeah, the blue letter, open it up, read it, basically explaining that, his love chose Musburger over him. He's Hudsucker starts to cry. And he's like, skip that part, skip that part. But yeah, he says all the stock will go to whoever's elected president. Um, yeah, so that means I mean, he figured Paul Newman would have elected himself, but he didn't. So it's going to go all back to Tim Robbins, and but there's a crazy fucking weird fight between the door
Yeah.
dude and
Yeah, this is
Moses.
the battle of the conflicting philosophies or whatever. Yeah.
Good old fist fight between two older dudes as well. Like
Yeah.
I mean, he gets his dentures knocked out, the bald dude. But then Moses takes the broom out of the wheel to strike that dude, which is a death blow. Oh, wait, shit, did he die? He did fall. Whoa. Did Moses kill him?
Man, I never thought of that actually.
Whoa. That's crazy. So, but he saves Tim
But yeah,
Robbins at the
so
last second.
he grabs the broom and the clock starts, so he starts falling again, and all of a sudden he stopped again, and you see the false teeth, the dentures are stuck in the gears.
Oh, man. Eventually they break so he could just land and
Yeah,
be
he just
safe.
has but he's pretty close to the ground at that point, so it's not that far of a fall.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, Tim Robbins is like, "Yay, I'm alive and stuff." And the angel's like, "Don't forget to turn in the letter and stuff." And Tim Robbins runs back to the Beatnik bar while everyone's celebrating. He grabs Amy and they kiss and get back together and stuff. The next morning, Sid Musburger's on the ledge himself. Oh, tables have turned. But it's still not satisfactory because he's put in to that mental institution. And it's like, well, he wasn't insane. I mean, he's a bad guy, but I guess
Yeah,
that's how they treated suicidal people. Yeah.
yeah. Like basically, if you got committed for something like that, then that could very well be what happened.
And then the final shot is it's at the board meeting. And so the voiceover again by Moses, he's doing it again. He's like, and Tim Robbins uh was a compassionate boss. Like he changed things or something like that. So that's good. And then he's talking about, his other idea, and it's a circle again. But he unveils the frisbee, tosses it out the window. It's pretty cool. The ends.
Hooray. And everybody
Yeah.
clapped.
Yes. Or if you were in that beatnik bar, you snapped your fingers.
Yeah, I think Zoom filtered that sound out.
Yeah. Damn you, Zoom. When we want it, you don't do it. Yeah. You know what? I don't know. I think I'd watch this movie again. I really liked Jennifer Jason Leigh in this, and Tim Robbins is good in his stuff. Paul Newman, I felt like wasn't given too much to do because it's like he's Paul Newman. Like,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've always liked this movie. Like, I first saw it back in high school, I want to say even, and um, have had a fondness for it
Hmm. Where do, oh yeah, you don't like to rank things, but if
amongst
you,
my Coens. Geez, that's
yeah,
tough.
like maybe an A tier, B tier, C tier sort of thing. Would that make it easier?
I'd probably say B tier. I don't know.
Yeah.
I definitely like it's in my top half for sure.
So we were wondering before, like, does the magic does that work? You know, do we need the Moses bald guy explained to us? You know, I kind of want to know what they're about, but it doesn't anger me not knowing though. I think that would be different.
Yeah, it. I feel like you could make a good like short film explaining like their origin. That might be kind of fun. Um, but yeah, they're they're definitely like you just get the impression that they've had this kind of like eternal battle going on,
Oh, that'd be awesome.
and Norville just kind of gets caught in the middle of it.
Oh man. Yeah, they could do a prequel, Mufasa style, where it's
Yeah,
like, how did Scar get that scar? They were friends once, like those two guys were friends. Maybe they both started off in the mailroom back in the day or something. I don't know.
back when Scar's name was just Flawless Face.
Hi, flawless face. Oh man. Yeah. You know what? I recommend this to people. Although, again, the confusion, especially with the ending with the Deus Ex Machina. Just as a writer, you're told not to do that. That's the only reason why I kind of bristle against it. But it's
But
nothing
yeah,
terrible.
and
Like, yeah,
it's like I would say it's far less offensive in something that's clearly like a a comedy where
yeah.
it's way worse if it's supposed to be like a serious movie and then just some force that you've never heard of or seen before in the movie is what resolves the issue like that. That's always bad, but in a comedy I give a lot more leeway.
We haven't mentioned the Art Deco.
Oh yeah,
I
just
believe I'm a fan of it. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, the only thing I read about this is that they use the buildings and the sets for like other movies. I want to say Batman, The Shadow, and something else. Where like, holy shit, I mean, they created a really good fake city as well. Like there was a picture where like the buildings I think look great in this movie. They're all fake. It's all miniature. And I really like it. I guess that makes sense. It would be very expensive to like rebuild or make a whole buildings look like they're from the 50s, I guess. But I love the look of the movie. The snow from the heights that they film from and stuff. It's a good looking movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to watch for that and those other movies because that'd be kind of fun to see.
All right. Well, how do we end this? Um, hmm.
Like, subscribe.
Yeah, leave a comment, although I'm very bad at responding. Go to my movierecollection.com. I was Vincent Cloud.
While you're there, click on the links. There is various different platforms you can subscribe on. Use the one of your choice. If there's a platform that's not there and you want it to be there, leave a comment on the YouTube, I guess.
Yeah.
I was John Nemitz.